uh, all the adversity that comes with performing at any level, not just the highest level, but really just taking that stage and being fearless and looking into the face of failure and recognizing that more people fail than win in sports. There's only one team standing at the end of the season. So how you handle all that, I think, is really important.
I made it through the rough time. I made it through the tough time. I made it through the bad time. So now I gotta get mine. Gotta weather the storm. Gotta get mine. Gotta weather the storm. I gotta get mine. Gotta weather the storm. Okay. One day we gon' get on. Talk to 'em. You ain't got a choice.
Welcome to Bailey and Buck Unplugged, where we talk about sports, entertainment, and mental health in support of the Kennedy Kids Foundation. If you're struggling with mental health, we encourage you to speak up and get help. A great place to start is 988. That's the free crisis prevention lifeline. Or you can check out the resources tab at kennedykids.org. If you are in an absolute emergency, please dial 911. Either way, we want you to know that you are not alone and that you don't have to struggle, and speak up, get help. There are resources available to you, and we are here to support you. If you're new around here, I want to introduce you to our host. I am Misty Buck. I am an author and a mental health and performance coach. And my co-hosts are Robert Bailey. He is the president of Rosenhaus Sports, the president of Kennedy Kids Foundation. He's a two-time Super Bowl champion, two-time college national champion. He's an NFL record holder, and he's an ESPY winner. And we are also joined by Bailey Brooks Masburn. She is a celebrity wedding and event planner, a former NFL cheerleader, and the executive director of the Kennedy Kids Foundation.
All right, today on Bailey and Buck Unplugged, we are beyond honored to welcome a woman whose resume reads like a Hall of Fame induction speech, but whose humility could fill 1,000 arenas. She's a two-time WNBA champion, Olympic gold and silver medalist, Notre Dame basketball legend, and former MVP who shattered glass ceilings as the WNBA's first vice president. Currently serving as Miami Heat executive, Ruth Riley Hunter is also an award-winning humanitarian, a civic powerhouse, and yes, she somehow found time to earn a degree in psychology as well, which is why she is perfect for today's show. But titles don't tell the whole story. Ruth is relentless as an advocate for mental health, a fierce supporter of community causes, and one of the most grounded, gracious souls you'll ever meet. She is literally living proof that greatness and humility not only can coexist, they can inspire us all. So, Ruth, welcome to the show. We are so thrilled to have you with us today.
Yes,
Thank you.
welcome.
Wow, what an honor to hear that introduction, and it's so great to be with you all.
Oh, well, thank you. And thank you for saying yes to me. I hate asking my friends for stuff, but I was like, you were perfect for this. And then when I found out you had the psychology degree, I was like, oh yeah, even better. But then she's also an advocate in the mental health space as well, and graciously opened the doors to the Miami Heat executive team for us and invited us out to an event with the Kevin Love Foundation recently, where we got to see some of the mental health progress that you guys are making strides in with regards to your mental health spaces, and also the program that the Kevin Love Foundation is organizing as well. And we're looking forward to having him on the show. He also, let us know that he was willing to participate with us. So we're so happy to look forward to having him as well. So thank you for that, for doing that for us already. So first question we typically start off with all of our guests is just to find out what your own personal challenges or struggles with have been in the past, where you felt like you've been most challenged with your own mental health. And you've got a slew of stuff to pull from, so I can't wait to hear it.
I think twofold. I would say as an athlete, you're going to go through the roller coaster of ups and downs, the pressure of performing at the highest level, and wanting to make sure that you're engaging your mind as much as you are physically, and understanding how important that is. And so I think my faith tied with mental health are two things that have really helped me as an athlete, really just stay grounded through all the adversity that comes with performing at any level, not just the highest level, but really just taking that stage and being fearless and looking into the face of failure and recognizing that more people fail than win in sports. There's only one team standing at the end of the season, and so how you handle all that, I think, is really important. And then for me, on a personal level, I would say that I've had dear friends and family members go through pretty significant mental health crisis. And so I think I've learned a lot walking life alongside them, because when an individual goes through something like that, it's not just them, it's their entire circle that gets affected. And wanting to be there for them, but also understanding how that impacts everyone around them as well.
So in the WNBA, like we've dealt with a lot of NFL players, a lot of NBA players. I think we've had Major League Baseball player as well. I mean, we just had Brandon Puffer, right? And so they have always had this insight, like as to like how they've dealt with like their coaches and how they've come up through the league. And men typically, our male guest athletes have consistently stated like a lot of the time they don't feel like they have the ability to express what they're actually going through because they're worried about being benched, not being selected, not being played, losing money, and that sort of thing. So they struggle silently with this, with a mental health issue or just going through anything, period. What would you say as far as like the WNBA and just for women like athletes, and like, is that different? Is it the same? How does that resonate with you?
I would say there are similarities and differences. I think that probably everyone feels that way, that weight of being honest and vulnerable, and how difficult that is, and not wanting people to see you differently. I think that's something that we share as humanity. But I think as women also, we're more aware of just the labels that we get. If you're emotional, or you show emotion in a certain way, and you don't want to be labeled as weak. And so I think that there are definitely those issues. Really proud though of where sports has come, because when I played, you didn't hear many people talking about it. And so I think the leagues have done a great job of using the platform of sport, and that has been fueled by individuals fearlessly sharing their experiences.
Wow. All right. So then some of the coaches that they've talked about as well throughout some of their stories and their journeys have been the catalyst or where most of the negative aggression has come from in their direction. Are most coaches in the WNBA female coaches? I don't want to make the assumption.
No,
No.
it's really split. I would say in the WNBA, most of my coaches were male.
Really?
And yeah, in college, I had an incredible female coach, Muffin McGraw at Notre Dame, and she's just an icon and a legend. But in the WNBA, just happened to be the teams that I played on, but I would say it's pretty even.
So is the yelling and the coaching style similar, or is it like less aggressive?
Towards women.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, my coach for 4 years in Detroit was Bill Lambier, and I'm sure, Robert,
Oh,
you probably know him as one
yeah.
of the bad boys back in the day, played for the Detroit Pistons. He has
Yeah.
a reputation. And so he's very loud, but it's not demeaning. He is sarcastic, but I would say that there is a difference in the delivery of each of the coaches that I've played for. And I think the coaches that probably had daughters probably related a little differently than those who didn't. And so I think fortunately I played for a lot of men that had young girls that played basketball that understood that journey.
Oh wow.
Ruth, I got a question for you. You've been an executive on the WNBA side. Now you're on the NBA side. How has that affected? How has that play on you in terms of coming from a mainly women-driven sport, right? It's the women's basketball, being an executive there, and now you're an executive with the Miami Heat, which is all male. Is there a big difference in terms of how the pressure that you feel, and ultimately what is your ultimate goal along the lines of the executive line? Like how high? What is your ultimate goal?
Those experiences were very different. I think in the WNBA, I was the general manager, so I was the main decision maker. So there's a lot more pressure when you're the one at the top. And I was really young. I mean, 2 years removed from playing. So some of those players that I was now leading were my former teammates. So it was a very challenging and unique situation. But I loved the opportunity to be back in San Antonio and to have that experience leading. On the NBA side, you just have so much more money and resources and staff. And on the WNBA side, you're looking around and it's like, it's just me.
Right.
Like it's a, an operation of one or two or three. And where on the NBA side, you have, 10, 15, 20 people making the same decision. So I think I was aware of, just how fortunate the advancement of the NBA is to be able to make those collective decisions. And now the W is coming along in just that short time from when I was a general manager to now. I mean, the league has expanded, those roles are expanding, salaries have expanded. And so it's just incredible to see where women's sports has come.
Oh yeah, absolutely incredible. And how high of an executive do you want to get on the NBA side? Like, what's your ultimate goal?
I don't have an actual end goal right now. I think my life has taken so many different pivots that I couldn't have expected that I really am just present to the moment of where I'm at and open to opportunities when they come. I mean, fortunate that the Heats are the organization that drafted me to be back here, to be able to learn from Pat Riley and Andy Ellisberg and Coach Spoelstra. Really, I'm in a learning phase, but also in a phase where I really want to add value because I have so much experience and so much passion about, making our organization successful and, where that leads, opportunities down the road. I'm definitely excited to see what that journey looks like.
But we can't have you on the show and not talk about the elephant in the room, which is Caitlin Clark, right? We are a mental health podcast, but I do want to get your take on how and you play with your Hall of Famer, you play with a lot of great players, but none of them has had the type of impact on women's basketball from a fan base, financially. Just, I'm watching WNBA basketball. I'm watching the W. Like, I'm literally watching, waiting to see who's Indiana playing, where are they playing? Is Caitlin on the bench? Is she in the game? She's really brought a lot of attention to the league. I would like to get your take on some of the things that have come out about her and how tough that is for her to mentally take on the weight of the entire league. And she's really been she's only played 1 year so far, right? She's in her second year. How tough must that be, just to give us some insight for her to take on this responsibility?
I mean, I've never met Caitlin personally. I mean, I look forward to at some point, but just watching from afar and imagining, empathetically what that would be like. It's a unique intersection in time and sport, and she is the best player coming out of college, historically setting records, coming at a time where companies and fans are willing to invest and willing to engage in a way that not because the product hasn't been great before, but just we're at an intersection of time where people are willing to do that. And I think that she's done an incredible job of elevating the league and elevating opportunities, not just for herself, but for women's sports, not just basketball, but I think women's sports at large. We're seeing now companies saying, yeah, I want to put money into women in a way when as a player, there was maybe one or two
Right.
that you get a little bit of that sponsorship. And so I think it's a reflection of where we're at in society and her career as a young player. It's tough because obviously she didn't make the Olympic team. There's a lot of speculation about that. And there is a process to some of these things that people don't understand too, of, you know, being a part of USA basketball for a long time, how the Olympic team is chosen. And so people who are
Tell us about it. Enlighten us, Ruth. Enlighten us.
people who are new to the table just see who she is and where she's at now and aren't aware of the history before that. So I think just being cognizant of both is important. And for USA basketball, it's the 12 players that you would say are going to prepare you best, right? It's not the 12 best players. And so, and you also need international experience because you're going up against the top players in the world, and the international game is different. And so, I think that there are multiple factors that go into that. A lot of players had to pay their dues before they were able to get on an Olympic team. And sure, some of them made it earlier than others. I was the youngest, I think, one of the youngest on our Olympic team in 2004. I had been playing throughout USAB from college on, and just for the chance to make a team at some point down the road. And so I think there are layers to that, definitely.
So I want to spin off of what Robert said. I didn't know Caitlin Clark was the elephant in the room, had no idea because I'm like,
Yeah.
I just,
She
I'm not,
she
I love,
You knew
100%.
Robert was gonna go there. Come on.
I love live events.
I was waiting
so
for this.
I love live events. I don't pay attention to like all the extras behind the scenes. And sadly, I was not a fan of women's basketball before or any women's sports necessarily because I just not a fan of sports. Like I like going to an event and then I go home, but I don't watch it on TV. I don't follow it after. I don't really care what happens because I like the food. I like the fashion. I like the music. Like I like the energy, rah, rah, right? But the reason why I started watching WNBA stuff and got involved was because of the drama between Caitlin Clark and Angela Reese. And the drama is what like turned on for me this whole WNBA and then starting to hear more about it and people talking about it. And I think that's also why companies are more invested because drama sells. Like marketing, it's negative or positive marketing. The marketing sells. If it's the top and everybody's complaining and tweeting and or Xing, I don't know how to say that anymore, and posting about it, then the drama, that's where it comes from. And that's where the marketing comes from. And in our house, you made a lot of sense about something Jamal has said to me in the past, which is he's always felt like that there should only be women coaches in the WNBA. And I didn't realize there were so many male coaches. So now his comment makes a lot more sense. He's like, women should coach women. It's their opportunity. It's their league. What are we doing there? And then it not having that much money, the NBA guys, they built up to that level, but now you guys have really turned on with that whole catalyst happening. And I just always go back to the mental health of the two girls that were like pitted against each other and probably weren't as aggressive towards each other, but the media and all the posting and all the conversation surrounding it made it seem bigger drama than it was. And now they're kind of like launching the whole thing off of that.
Yeah,
It was
but
big. It was
to be
big
fair,
drama.
Claire, this has been kind of like crescendoing, I think, up. You have players, and maybe Ruth, you agree or don't agree, but we have players like Sabrina Ionescu that was in the NBA All-Star game against Seth Curry in the 3-point contest, which was like freaking incredible. So I think it's been like it's been kind of, so I think to Ruth's point, which if I'm understanding Ruth, what you're saying is that now she's in sort of like the best place in time for people that are or have already started to kind of pay attention and they're willing to open up to women's sports as we've kind of started to open that door and now it's really opened. But I think what you're saying is that it's kind of been she stepped into a situation where we're starting to open anyway.
Yeah, it was always interesting because our peers, like the NBA guys or other athletes, always respected us. It was the average guy at the local bar who thought they could beat you or, walking like just like the blatant disrespect from a casual person. And so now you're seeing it's that person that's coming on board to say, oh, wow, like these women are incredible. They're best at the world at what they do. Like, it's not just dads with daughters watching the WNBA anymore. Like it's, it's a society that's getting on board with the fact that women's sports is fun to watch.
Yeah,
Well,
it's incredible.
really very entertaining. I wonder what they need to do next to draw like a better or bigger fan base.
I think they're heading in the right direction. The league has expanded teams. They're expanding the season. They're paying the women more so they don't have to play overseas to complement, the smaller salaries that we made back when I was a player in the WNBA. Um, I think that companies have to continue to invest. The summer is a tricky season for a sports team because people travel and they're not always gone. So you're selling season tickets during the summer isn't always an easy business model, but I think as long as people are showing up at the games, like once you get them in there, I think they're engaged, like you would be. Like as a fan in the building, you experience more than just watching basketball. You get the whole
It's
experience.
a total different thing than watching it on TV. Like,
Yeah, I want them to bring back the Miami Soul. Can we bring that back? That was the
That would
Miami
be great.
WNBA team.
Ruth should bring that back. We should start a campaign
Bring
for
it
Ruth
back.
to be the president of the Miami Soul.
Yeah, I don't think it's coming back anytime soon. There's so many cities that want teams, and now just to see what a franchise price is, what teams are going for coming into the league, it's phenomenal and something that even 5 years ago people wouldn't have said was possible.
it's a
Well,
lot.
that's absolutely great. Let's get back to the mental health topic. Ruth, you went through seasons and seasons in college and pros and now as an executive. What are some of the things that you have done to kind of slow down and keep things under wraps, right? Where like there's just a lot of pressure, your journey, right? And now you're on the executive side. What have you done to help yourself not kind of like get this wave over your head that drowns you with everything that you're doing? Because you're doing a lot.
Yeah, I guess one of my recent revelations is that multitasking really isn't beneficial or something that's helpful to try to do because you're never fully present to either one. And so I think earlier in my career, I just felt like, oh, I can do so much. I can do this and this and try to juggle 20 things at once. And now I think as I get older, and maybe being a mom, also understanding that like actually being present in my son's life and in our upcoming daughter's life is very different than me multitasking while I'm around him. And, just feeling also the anxiety that comes up when I'm trying to do too much at once and feeling like, oh, I can put all of myself into something for maybe a shorter period of time. But I feel better when I'm doing it and I feel better afterwards, but I'm also doing better work. And so I think that's something that has helped me definitely as an executive, as a working mom, as I've gotten older. It's just constantly reminding myself to be present. Because I have this running list in my head of all these things that I want to do or could do or should be doing. And, like making sure that I'm able to calm that and quiet that.
That's excellent. Misty should be able to speak to that. Misty's a new mom. She had a baby a
Yes.
year and a half ago, I think.
Yeah, he turns a year and a half at the end of this month, and I'm hearing what you're saying, and I'm like, this is like ding, 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 yes, check, 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 because it's like I had always tried to do all these things before, and you can people say, oh, being a mom and the mental overload, and you don't really understand it until you're there because it's like, well, what about this? And what about this for my kid? And what about that for my kid? Am I doing the right things? Is he on the right development? You know what I mean? Like, so it's like just all these constant things. My son just started daycare last week. That was a big deal. So it's like, but you know what I mean? It's like all these things of multitasking. And so when you say like, yeah, be present. I want to be that because I don't want to. I love that you're sharing this because I don't want to look back at this experience and be like, everything was such a blur. I don't remember raising my son. Right?
Right.
Like, so I think like I really identify with that so very much. How old is your son?
He's 2.5. It's such a fun age. Like he's
Oh
just
my God.
and like talking in full sentences and just like, active and exploring the world. And Misty, I love that you shared that. I think the other part about that is just having realistic expectations. Like we think we're superhuman sometimes because we do have to do so much. And so there's a reality that we're incredible because we can do so much. But for me, it was like just just being able to have realistic expectations so I'm not constantly disappointed that I'm not meeting something that's not possible. And being okay with like, I can't research everything that Theo's going to go through. We're going to potty train this weekend. And I'm like, you know, we'll see how this goes. I mean, I've tried to do what I can to get ready, and it's going to be an adventure.
I love that. Bailey, we've had this conversation about this super mom thing.
Yeah,
Like
the
how
superhuman thing she said. I just
super, yeah, it's like I can't be that. You know what I mean? Like my husband, oh, you're super mom. I don't want to be super mom.
yeah, stop calling me that. Like, because then I keep
That's too much.
I start trying to live up to it to maintain. It's like you give somebody an A and they gotta keep it. And I'm just like, I keep trying to maintain this. And something else Ruth said that blew my mind because I have always stood on this award that I'm an amazing multitasker, amazing multitasker. And then she goes, yeah, but when you're multitasking, you're not fully present. And I was like, oh crap. Like I didn't even think about that. Like it never even dawned on me that I never even felt not present. I felt productive and I was more thriving off the being productive and getting stuff done. But she's right. Like if I was more fully present and not multitasking for a shorter period of time, I swear these podcasts are starting to become therapy for me. Like just listening to different people's perspectives on it. Like that was such a great point. And to Misty, back to you on like a year and a half, like, yeah, you don't want it to be a blur. Like Heavenly's 12, right, Robert? Like
Yeah.
it's like insane how quickly she's become 12. And I've dropped her off earlier today and she's eyeballing me. Like she's look, I feel like she grew 2 inches since last week when I saw her, and she's looking at me right in the eyeballs, and I'm just like, what is happening?
I thought you meant eyeballing, like she's giving you a look, because I've seen her give looks before. She's done that to me. Like, okay, Miss Adult.
She gets that from me too. I know.
It's incredible. You know, I understand where you come from. I think the whole notion of the man should go out and make the money and the mom should raise the kid. I think that's all like wrong. I think because, you know, Bailey, that's for me. I think that like you made a comment about the multitasking and then she's saying, well, you weren't present, right? So I think for men also, because if we're making money and we're multitasking and we're doing all these things, we miss out on a lot of life, you know, changing things for kids, like as like potty training, just something as simple as that. To hear Ruth say that, and then like that's a special moment, right? And just building up to that and getting ready for the weekend where they're going to try this special moment. With a lot of fathers, we miss out on all that because we feel like, hey, we're out here working, we're you know, trying to make the money. Okay, honey, go party train. Okay, honey, you know, go take them to the park or take her to the park or do this. And we feel like it's okay, but it really isn't okay anymore. You know, like I think both parents have to be present and be, because you know, I'm guilty of that, right? Working, and then just, you know, letting mom do these small tasks or these big tasks sometimes, and feeling like it's okay because I'm bringing in the money. Well, there's got to be a balance. From just history and watching and learning and like you said, Bailey, the podcast, there's got to be a balance. Okay, you can multitask, but multitask when your kids are in school. Don't multitask when they're home. You know, be present, help raise the child, help raise your kids. And that way your kids will get both from mom and dad. And that's got to be beneficial. You know, that 100% that's got to be beneficial. But
No, I think you're right. I know. I think you're 100% right. I feel like I owe you an apology on behalf of like the whole world right now because I've never heard of a guy say that like that. I don't know if Ruth and you feel the same way hearing that from him because I'm so conditioned that like mom run the household, guy go out provide and you know.
Yeah.
And then I just, with the way he said that after listening to you, Ruth, prep for potty training weekend, he's like, I'm realizing like I missed out on all these things because I was so focused on what I was conditioned to do as a male in a household. And I'm like, oh, I don't even realize that they feel like they're missing out. like that they missed these moments and these memories.
Yeah,
Really,
100%.
really, you did. And then you were an athlete, so you were playing and you were away and you were overnights. You were an athlete for 12 years. Did I get that right?
11 NFL, 11 NFL.
11 NFL, and then plus his college career, like that's a lot, like to be away from. And he has three children. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, so my point is if you're playing football and or playing a sport and then you obviously have to be at the games, be at practice, those things. But when you come home, if you continue to multitask, continue to do all these different things and not focus right on family. And not everybody's a professional athlete. There are people that have 9 to 5 jobs. You come home, I just think instead of continuing being this, hey, I'm gonna go make the money, go make the money, go make the money, be more present in your kids' lives in terms of these special moments. Because to be honest, Ruth, I don't remember one potty training event for any of my kids because I was so like making the money. I got to make the money. I got to make sure the family's gonna make the money. Okay, honey, you take care of that. And when I look back, I'm like I'm sad that I didn't get a chance to be a part of the potty training, and be a part of like taking the kid to the park and seeing him hold on to the swing for you know what I mean, and not let go, and do all these little small things that moms remember and but dads we don't remember. I remember teaching my son how to ride a bike, but there's other things that I wish like the way Ruth talked about potty training was like that's a moment and that she'll remember that and maybe her husband will remember it also because he's going to be with her. But we need to have more of that. We need to have more of like both parents and taking care of the kids and let dad could go make the money, but he can also not be multitasking so much that he misses out on those things that I feel like I missed out on.
And
No,
at the
no.
same time, as women, right, that are working, Ruth, your work, right? You obviously
Yes,
have a very busy career and it's in sports. So how do
right.
you manage all that?
Yeah, how do you balance that and with Ben? And now you have the second one coming in less than a month.
Yeah, a couple of weeks. Well, first of all, I'm fortunate to have an incredible husband. Like, I mean, he is just phenomenal in every way and makes me better and wants me to succeed at what I'm doing in my career, but also, supports me in every way at home. So I think that I recognize that is definitely the foundation that we're working on, are working from. But it is hard. It's never really a balance. It's always going to be if you're in mom mode, you're in mom mode. If you're in work mode, you're in work mode. And every day isn't going to be equal. And your kids are going to get sick and you're going to have to take off work and go to the doctor and they just want to be held or they're crying and you're going to have projects due and deadlines and all of that to navigate. And so I think for me, it's been also just having appropriate expectations for my career and also understanding how important it is to me to be a mom. And sometimes I have to channel back some of my ambition because that's just what my kids need. And as a single woman, like I was completely driven and just going 100 miles an hour down one lane, and that's not possible now. And so I think that that's still a fight an internal battle that I have because I know I can do more at work and I know I can do more at home. And so just how I navigate those two spaces isn't perfect, but it's a working process.
I thank you for sharing that. I'm reminded when you're talking about your husband and his partnership, my cousin just a year ago graduated surgical residency. And in her thank you speech, she said, I want to thank who's her fiance. She said, I want to thank you for never making me choose between my dream career and being a mom. And I thought that that was so amazing. But I think to your point of what you just said, it is really hard to be your best in both spaces, and you can't do that equally. And there's sacrifices that have to be made on one or both sides, right? So how do you manage all of that mentally when that stress arises? Maybe
I don't know how you feel. I get guilt because I'm like, okay, I'm not doing enough in my business because I'm doing so much here, or I'm doing so much, or I feel like I'm doing so much in my business. I'm not doing enough for my son, right? Like I'm not, he's with me, but I'm on the phone. Like he just sees me on the phone. So, trying to back up and be present, but still balance everything is extremely challenging. And so, how do you manage that mentally? Because you're making it sound much more easy than it actually is.
Yeah, no, it's definitely not easy. And so I think acknowledging that it's challenging is the first step, right? Like just acknowledging that there's not a perfect path, that it's going to be hard, that, some days you're just going to feel emotional about trying to be in both worlds. But also, my husband and I listened to a couple of good podcasts, and there's a speaker out of Atlanta called Andy Stanley, and he talks about how when their kids were young, they had to prioritize certain life, certain circumstances about their life, and at that point they were no for nows. They weren't no forever, but it was a no for now in this season of our life. Like, we're just not going to be able to meet up with our friends as much. We're not going to be able to volunteer always the way we could have because our kids need us first. And so I think just recognizing that just because it means no for now and I really want to do something, but it's not possible, doesn't mean that's a no forever. Like, we're going to get back to that season of life where we can hopefully work out a lot more, or
Right.
do some of these other things that we enjoyed as a single, or as a couple without kids. But I think that frees up a little bit of the angst of like, I really want to do all of this right now, and understanding there's going to be time for that. It's just not at this moment.
Yeah, I think that's an amazing perspective because the no is not a no forever is, I think, really helpful to remember because you cannot get these days back. And I speak only from my experience as also having a 21-year-old stepdaughter who's really like my daughter. I started raising her when she was like 6. And so we got to the point where she graduated high school. Now she's in college and she doesn't need us as much. And so now I have more time for other things. And then we decided, obviously, to have another child. But it was like that really like short period of time where it was like, oh, and it was like kind of like bittersweet. Like you're kind of like in the craziness, like, oh my God. And then you're kind of sad when it's over. So I think I love this perspective because for me, I try to keep that in mind because I know that it's, yes, you want to do everything and you want it right now, but eventually you're going to have that again. And you're not going to have all these days with your kids as little kids.
Mhm. Yeah.
Right. So I admire what you're doing so much. I don't know that I could do it. I don't know that I could work in sports and be a present mother. Like, I don't know how you do it. It's amazing.
She's not the only one. There are a lot of incredible women out there that are doing a lot in sports and in business, and they're raising families. To me, I always thought, man, I can't wait for a woman president because you guys could definitely like multitask, handle it, take care of the house, work, take care of the kids, cook dinner, and we're sitting there like we're doing something. We ain't doing nothing. Let me tell you something. We ain't doing nothing. Women are way better multitaskers than men, and I mean that wholeheartedly. I can't wait for the first woman president to come to this country. I think a lot of things are going to change for the better.
I just need a woman to go in there and look at what you guys have been doing for so long and clean it up for a little bit.
Oh, oh my
Clean the
God.
house, please. This clean needs to be cleaned up just a little bit. Like there are cobwebs and corners people have never paid attention to.
Yeah.
I know it because it's like in my house, I know if I tell one of my boys, and there are 3, hey, go into the kitchen and grab that orange thing on the counter in the kitchen, they'll come back from the kitchen and be like, I didn't see it. And that's exactly my point. Like,
Exactly.
I told you exactly where it was.
So, Ruth, I think we're getting pretty close to the end of our time together. We're starting to reach that point. I did want to go back to something that you said along the mental health lines as well. When you were talking about in and out of sports, you talked about this concept of most people fail in sports, which is true, right? And that's really difficult when you want to win and you're competitive. Like that can be a really challenging mental health and wellness have an impact really challenging on your mental health and wellness, right? On sort of this idea of like, I need to accept when I'm not doing as well. But then how do you face that failure? I think is different on the inside versus the outside, because then you also went on to say that if you're emotional, it's labeled as weak. And as a female, I felt that growing up as an athlete. I was that emotional one that cried for everything, and I was called weak and all these other names that I won't say here. So I think that there is this balance, right, of being like tough and resiliency and getting over and accepting that you can't be perfect, right? And that losses are going to happen. But also there's a healthy way to deal with those emotions. And it doesn't just mean being like stuffing them down and pretend they don't exist. And it doesn't also mean letting them run wild. So how do you have like a moment maybe where you learned this about like emotions, or it's just kind of like the way that you grew up, you just inherently learned like don't get labeled as weak?
Well, I would say kind of the opposite. Like I grew up in a household that my mom never talked about emotions. So like it's something we didn't deal with. It's like they didn't exist. And so this is like a revelation to me as I've gotten older. And I mean, my husband's been amazing. We've had great counselors and life coaches that we've talked to. And so like I think for me, like sports was always this like goal driven space that I could compete in, and that was my outlet because I was tall and coordinated and got made fun of a lot. And so this was a space that like I could thrive and really felt good about who I was and about my confidence in. But I think, I also want to address, I think as women, especially when I talk to young girls who are athletes, is that they compound failures on top of each other. And so throughout a game, it's just like it becomes this mountain of something they have to overcome. And what I learned in the pros was just how you are able to stay present in the moment, how you're able to, I would say, fail fast, move forward, right? Get on to the next play. You recognize, like, yes, that was a mistake, or I missed a shot, or I made a turnover. But if you allow that to compound over the course of a game or from game to game, then your entire self-worth is under that weight of performance. And that's a really tough and unfulfilling place to be. And so then you just seek for these glimpses of something positive where you come up for air, but really you're just like treading water, trying to keep afloat. And instead of thriving in a space that you're using your God-given talent to perform in a way that you love. And so I think just having that freedom of learning how to embrace that adversity is a part of what we do. And like mentally, I think a lot of young people don't welcome that. And I think that becomes really difficult because you're going to constantly face it, not just in sport, but in life. And so, if you're not prepared for, I would say be confident in how you overcome adversity. Not just be confident you're going to make the next shot, but be confident that you're going to be able to get up, you're going to learn from it, you're going to move on, you're going to become better. Like those are things that I would love for especially young women to be confident in, not just to be confident in, stepping into the moment of hitting a game winner.
Yeah, I thank you for sharing that. I think I think it again is something easier said than done, and on to the next one mentality. I talk a lot with people about that's mental conditioning to be able to do that and to teach yourself like it's okay to play with that freedom that you were just talking about. So like how do you do that mid-game though when you feel like you're starting to like mentally sink? Like how do you just kind of like, okay, let me step back here. I know different athletes have different ways of doing this. So maybe it's something that you've done or you've seen other players do over the years. How do you develop that in the moment when it feels like the momentum is shifting, you're playing off, you're not having your best game or whatever's happening? And this could even go in life, right? Like we have days or times where it's like we start the day and then it's kind of like everything's starting to snowball and you're like, oh no. And then it just kind of gets worse from there. It's kind of the thing. So like, how do you turn that around? Like what are some strategies that you would share?
I think just pausing and taking a deep breath is like the easiest, simplest way to reset. And, because like everything in you just calms down a little bit. And so, whether you're in the game and you just need to just take a breath and then re-engage to where you're at in the game. But when you're just going like this, I think it is hard to reset. And I find that too, like if I'm feeling myself get worked up, if I can just get like a quiet minute or two, like what that does to just like my entire physiological like being, I think is helpful. I mean, getting into meditation and breathing and other things, there are layers to that. But if you can just take a couple of deep breaths, I think that is a quick way to at least, get a little bit of a reset.
Yeah, I think I always come back to the breath myself, especially even like with my son. I'm like, okay, take a deep breath here. Like, let's reset. Like, oh my God. So Robert, I think you probably see this a lot. Bailey, you probably see it with your sons that play sports. But Bailey, I know I mean, Robert, I'm sure you see it with your players, where they need to have that reset.
Oh yeah, 100%. Because the one thing about basketball is the one sport that is different from all the other sports in terms of the moment, having a moment, right? And there are a lot of moments in basketball, and what I mean by that is like that game-winning shot, right? Because you could be down 10 points with seconds to go or less than and get back, right? You could get fouled and be at the free throw line. In basketball, there's always that moment, right, where you got to hit that free throw. Nothing stops you. No one's defending you. It's just you and the goal, right? Or you're coming on the court. It's the last 5 seconds. You're down by one. And you got to make 2 points to win the game. It's always that moment. Football, you rarely have that moment, right? It's just the game, right? And at the end of the game, it's over. And soccer is just a game, and at the end, but basketball, it has so many moments, and guys hit the shot or they miss the shot, right? And so I can understand when Ruth says, sometimes you just got to pause and take a deep breath. But I think, if when I think of all these sports and the amount of pressure. I think basketball has so many moments of increased pressure for these guys. You watch the finals going on now, and you know, you see one guy get injured. He's the main focus of the team, and then somebody else has to step up, and you can tell they're like flustered, and there's so many moments, and so is for athletes and especially in basketball, I think as Ruth said, there's times when you just have to take a deep breath. And a lot of my clients understand that we talk about either playing angry and football is an angry sport. So we play angry a lot. But there's times when, especially,
So
at
unhealthy.
the,
So unhealthy.
yeah, so unhealthy in football. So
Great for your bank account, but
right.
so
And
unhealthy.
then, yeah, 100%. But basketball, it's not an angry sport. You actually have to play calm in order to hit. You angry and you go up to the free throw line angry, you're not making many free throws. It's just such a different sport. So I understand Ruth's perspective about being calm, breathing.
I just
And
don't know how you take a breath like that in the middle of the game when you've got like thousands of people around you and everyone's looking at you and you're screaming and there's all this.
but that's when you need to have that. That's
Yeah.
when you need to have that breath. You know what I mean? For football, the guy's coming at you. He's stronger. He's big. He's trying
It's
to run
barreling
you
down
over.
towards you.
He's literally trying to put you in the ground. You can't be taking a deep breath
Yeah.
at that moment, right?
Ruth, I have to ask, it just like,
Like, I'm out. I need to take a
yeah,
deep
time
breath.
out. I need a breath. Yeah. Ruth, I have to ask because you said something that was like uh, new for me, but like you said that in your household growing up, your mom didn't like really, it wasn't like a place to share your emotions and talk about. So what made you go to major in like psychology? Like, is it because of the absence of that or so that you can grasp an understanding of it? But what attracted you to that degree?
I knew I wanted to work with people. I thought like pre-med originally, and then when I got to Notre Dame, I was like, that's not gonna work. But I've always been super curious, about how our minds work and how we're wired, but also just wanting to work with people. And empathy is probably one of the strongest traits that I have. And so I think on every team that I've been on, I've been that glue that like holds people together and been curious enough to understand their stories, even though we come from different backgrounds, trying to meet them where they're at to bring everyone together. And so I think that was a natural fit for me, and I really enjoyed studying it.
No, I think it's great because earlier when you made the multitasking comment and related it to not being fully present, I had read somewhere, and I think it was like a psychology paper, but they said that, and please, I'd love for you to confirm this for me, is that multitasking is actually not healthy for your brain because you're rewiring the synapses and you're making them go all over the place versus like, or in an organized manner.
Yeah, it is. It is how you physiologically feel different if you're trying to do that versus just acknowledging like being present in the moment. And I think that's why this generation of social media and just being pulled always like looking, to, your phone or devices or whatever, like and not being able to like have an intentional conversation and connect with somebody, is a struggle. And feel for this generation because it's hard and it's a lesson that we can all learn.
Yes,
Yeah,
definitely.
it is. It is really hard, and I think you're right on it. I think when you were saying earlier too about managing expectations, that kind of comes into managing expectations for yourself of where you need to be, and the fact that I can't be everywhere and I can't be present on my phone and watching this and doing that because Bailey was kind of getting into the science behind it. But if you just want to break it down very simply, isn't it true that you can't give 100% to more than one thing at one time?
Yeah, yeah, for
Right.
sure. Yeah,
So
that was one of the classes I learned, like in college, like I was a perfectionist and then immediately said you can't be 100% a basketball player. And I was like, yeah, sure I can. I can try. Like if I could try and then if I fail, like I'm 99, right? And it doesn't work. It really
Right.
doesn't.
In
That's
football, in sports, you hear be 100%. You got to go give it 100%. You got to give it up. You hear that all the time. It's like a part of all sport, all professional sports. Go 100%. So I understand the psychological effect that could have on you.
and
I,
it's
I,
hard too when you have that swivel head on a swivel mentality that you learn in sports too,
Yeah.
right? So then be like,
Yeah.
okay, so do one thing, focus on one thing.
Yeah.
if a Mack truck is coming at me at 100 mile per hour, I'm like, your peripheral vision better be working as well as your forward
Yeah.
focus.
Yeah, awesome. Well, Ruth, I can't believe we've been talking for almost an hour now. So I want to ask you one of the final questions that we usually ask guests, which are when you feel stressed or maybe you're struggling with your mental health, which again doesn't mean that you have depression or anything like that. It just means like maybe you're stressed or you're feeling anxious or whatever's going on for you. When those moments happen, what are the top three things that you do to manage your mental wellness?
I would say for me, prayer is important. My faith is something that is really important to me and keeps me grounded, and I feel like directs me to something that's greater than myself. And so anytime you can zoom out from whatever's causing that angst, I think it's helpful. Working out, if I can, just even going for a walk, if I can get out in nature or go for a walk or a run or something where I feel like, just that activity allows me to reset. And last but definitely not least, just connecting with my husband. He's such a great support and resource and, a sounding board and somebody that can always build me up when I need support, or maybe I just need a hug, or it just depends on what I need in that moment. And I think those three things are probably what I lean on the most.
Oh, I love that. No one's
That's
ever picked
awesome.
their partner as one of their.
Yeah. She picked her partner. I was like, oh, I
I
must be doing
told
a
you she
bad
was
job.
special.
Oh my God, Robert.
No one's picked me.
No one's picked you.
I pick you, Robert.
Okay. Thank you, Misty.
You're welcome.
That was awesome. That was awesome, Ruth. Your husband's going to be happy to hear that.
But that's the meaning of a partnership, and I think that kind of sums up a lot of what we were talking about today is
Yeah.
having this partnership, and that no matter where you are in your life, that partnership, and even if it's not somebody you're married to, but having a place where you can go and have somebody that's reliable for you and somewhere that you feel like I can have a hug, even if it's a virtual hug, or that hug is just, okay, this person's going to listen to me and not judge me. That's like, you know what I mean? That kind of gives you like a similar feeling in a way. So, anyhow, we want to thank you for everything that you shared today. And for those of you that are listening, please like, subscribe, and review to hear more episodes of Bailey and Buck Unplugged. Tell us how awesome Ruth was. So when you visit the show, please leave a comment, leave a review. If you love this episode as much as we did. And we always want to remind you, if you are struggling or you're in a mental health crisis, please dial 988. That is the free crisis prevention line. It is confidential and it is totally free and available to you. Of course, if you're in an absolute emergency, please dial 911. And if you're looking for mental health resources or a way to support the cause, please visit kennedykids.org and click on that resources tab, because we've got a lot of information for you. And we are always looking for help because we are an all volunteer organization. So appreciate you guys. Ruth, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Ruth, so much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Ruth.
One day we gon' get on.